guys, welcome back to another episode of the Dropping Down from the Rafters podcast here on Toned In Entertainment. I got to tell you guys, when Julie and I were throwing around some names of guests that we wanted to bring on, and I think we always have like really great guests, but with this particular show, I got just a little excited. So before we get to our guests, first I want to introduce my co-host for the show. Joining me once again is Julie Cutler. How you doing, Julie?
I'm back again. I think this is like our 4th week in a row.
I think we're 4 weeks in a row. Yes.
We are just on a hot streak right now. And again, I feel like I say this every single time because we've had so many great guests lately. But this is an interview that I am particularly excited about. And I have been excited about trying to plan this for quite some time now. So if I may... Hailing from Cincinnati, Ohio, weighing in at 240 pounds, he is the veteran Jack Vaughn.
Round of applause.
Yes,
Thank
yes,
you.
yes.
And Jack,
all right.
It's all downhill from here.
Exactly. We started on a high note.
I need you guys to send me the link to that intro song because that was awesome. That was a great song.
That was a bop. Tony,
Yeah.
I don't know what that intro song is.
It's from the music site that I license my music from. It's like $15 a month, and can use it's Epidemic Sound. So big shout out to Epidemic Sound and the $15 a month I pay to have royalty free music here on the channel for no copyright strikes. Yes, but I'll send you the name of the song so you can download it too.
Oh, sweet.
Yeah.
Well, Jack, I was just going to say we're super excited to have you because since I have started following you within the past couple of years on social media, you have blown up with good reason, because something that you do very, very well that I always look very highly upon in the professional wrestling business is daring to be different and doing something creative that makes you stand out. And that is exactly what you have done with all of the video content that you have created that have touched a lot of us in the professional wrestling business on a very personal level. But I want to go back a little bit, because before you were the veteran Jack Vaughn, at some point in time, you started out somewhere as a green as grass Jack Vaughn. And I have yet to hear your whole backstory. So let's go back to the very beginning in terms of what inspired you to get into the professional wrestling business in the first place. Where did you start and how did that path lead you to OVW?
So my love of wrestling started with just while my dad was a fan. So I grew up watching it with my dad and my brother. And it was just one of those things where my brother eventually, fell off and I just stuck with it. And I had a group of friends of mine that were all wrestling fans. And we'd all watch Raw on Monday and then talk about it the next day at school. And, I'm in my late 30s. So probably everyone in my age range can relate. In high school, I had a backyard wrestling fed. And so that was just another way that we all kind of just, kept track of the business. And when we graduated, there was 4 of us that actually wound up going to get trained. And my training began with Shark Boy. There was a guy at my gym that knew that I wanted to get into wrestling, and he saw an ad in the paper for Shark Boy's wrestling camp. And it wasn't a school. It was more designed to be like sort of like the first steps of your training. And then once you're done, you go somewhere else to continue training, or you just go out on the road and kind of learn on the job. And from there, I started working with a company in Cincinnati called the Northern Wrestling Federation. They are still around today. They've been running weekly shows for 25 years now. And then it's funny because it's like, I like to tell people that it's weird to say that I'm like an overnight sensation, but that is kind of how it happened. Like I was wrestling for a long time before I gained any traction. And, I started in 2004, and to say that I've been wrestling for 20 years is a little bit of a misnomer because I did retire at one point. But between 2013 and 2020, I maybe had a total of 20 matches. So I missed out on about 6 years before I decided to come back and really give it another shot. And that's when I came up with the Veteran.
Can I ask you, we're about similar ages. So when you said, you grew up watching Raw and then, you would talk to your friends the next day. I remember how excited I was because I, was going to school during the Monday night Raw and Nitro days. And man, I could not wait to go to school the next day and say, did you see Sting take on the NWO? Did you see Stone Cold Steve Austin, hose down McMahon with the beer truck? Like, like what are some of your favorite memories from like, I don't know, talking to like your friends back in the day, like from those awesome times in professional wrestling?
Man, so the one I had friends that were on both sides. Like they had, I was more of a WWF guy just because I was such a big Undertaker fan.
Okay.
And I had friends that were really into WCW. So for me, like I'm sure you remember, like Nitro started, I believe, at 8. Raw started at 9. So we'd all watch the first hour of Nitro. And then I would pretty much go to Raw and then would like kind of switch back and forth during commercials. But I remember the big one that I remember was when I had a buddy whose favorite wrestler was Rey Mysterio. And when I believe he beat Kevin Nash on an episode of Nitro or something, or he beat some big name on Nitro. And it was just like the next day he was just beside himself, just so happy. Like he wouldn't stop talking about it. So that's the one that really stands out. And then I actually remember the day after WrestleMania 17, because I think a lot of people consider that one of the best wrestling shows ever. And that was like, I kind of like waned off of wrestling for a little bit. And that was the one that really got me back in, because I kind of waned off around like early 99. And it's just because I was like so involved in sports and like high school sports at the time, I kind of just lost track of wrestling. But it was WrestleMania 17. That was a big one for us. And that was a big show for a lot of people.
Oh, here's Mosh Pit Messiah, a regular on the show. We need nothing but the veteran to go over every match and give him every title, brother.
I'm assuming that his name means he's a big heavy metal fan, in which party on?
Yeah, just a little bit.
Now, Jack, I wanted to circle back to something else that you had said, because you mentioned The Undertaker being a huge influence on you at a young age. Are there any other performers aside from The Undertaker that perhaps influenced you at a young age or still influence your style or any aspects of your character today? Maybe anyone that you've worked with that you would consider to be a big influence on your career today?
When I came up with the veteran, the big influences were Stan Hansen and JBL. And this is going to sound weird, but I also like to look at influences from things outside of wrestling. Mm-hmm. So one of my big influences, believe it or not, was Fred Durst.
Okay, from Limp Bizkit. Okay.
And the reason I say that is because when I first came up with this character, I didn't want it to be, I wanted to be a complete heel. I didn't want, because like there's no real heels anymore in wrestling. Everyone's kind of like trying to be like the cool heel and stuff. But I didn't want to be that. I wanted to be like JBL 04. Everyone hates him. Everyone's booing him. He's not selling merch, Mm-hmm. And the reason I bring up Fred Durst is because for those of us that were around at the time, Fred Durst and Limp Bizkit in general were very controversial in the sense that like a lot of people hated them, but then Fred Durst would go in interviews and say, "We are the best band in the world." And it got people really, like, people hated him for that kind of stuff. And that was sort of my mentality when I decided like how I wanted this character to look. Because when I first started doing it, I was kind of torn between, do I want this to sort of be like a parody of 80s wrestling, or do I want it to be like I'm like the new Arn Anderson,
Right.
And then I kind of thought about it and I decided to go the route that I did.
Jack, on my very first car, I actually had a bumper sticker that said Limp Bizkit is better than everybody. And I'm glad I didn't get my car keyed at this point now. Yes.
Well, because I remember they had a T-shirt with that same thing on it. And I actually considered doing a shirt just like it that just said Jack Vaughn is better than everyone, which I probably should now that I think about it.
Yes, I think so. Let's do it.
I would purchase.
Yes.
You already have 2 buyers right here. Jumping off of that, I love Jack Vaughn and his TikToks. Don't we all? And
yes, we're definitely going to get to that. That's for sure.
We'll definitely get to that. So when you mention the character, and you mentioned the idea that you have for this character, obviously we've seen it evolve a little bit over time. And we've seen that in the TikTok videos. And if you're a real adult like me, I watch them on Instagram 2 weeks after they're posted on TikTok. So either way, that's something that has really gotten you over big time in the wrestling community. And it's kind of added like a little bit of a comedic background to this otherwise very serious character of yours. So can you tell us a little bit about like the inspiration behind how those videos sort of came to be? Was it an idea, like just a passing idea that someone gave you or that you came up with and you were just kind of like, oh, like, okay, I'll give it a try and run with that? How is that piece of the character born?
I will never pass up an opportunity to put over Brutal Bob Evans.
Love Bob Evans.
I was going to say, you guys probably know him.
Hi, Bob, if you're watching.
So, you know, for people that don't know Bob, he's kind of like the guru of wrestling for a lot of guys. Like he's just a big inspiration for people. He gives a lot of really good information. He's been there and done everything at this point. And Bob and I became friends through social media. And at that point, I was doing like I had already gotten to the point to where everything I did was strictly in character. And he was actually at a show that I was at here in Ohio, and he did a seminar afterwards. And I was like, oh, I'll come and just talk to Bob and see what he has to say. And he looks at me, he's like, Jack, I really like the way that you do social media. He even complimented me by saying that sometimes the things that I say actually make him mad. And then he remembers that I'm working and that it's, you know, he said, thank you for making me a fan again. But he was like, I think you need to start doing video content because that's what's really big right now. And I think you could be good at it. So I was kind of hesitant because I didn't want to get on TikTok. I had never downloaded it. I to this day, I don't even use TikTok to watch videos. I just upload stuff and then reply to comments. Like I barely use it, but yeah. So I filmed a couple videos randomly one night after a show, and I posted the first video at like midnight one day because I was, you know, I don't think that's a good time if it even matters, but like I was kind of just trying to figure out how to use the platform. So I posted it at midnight and then I stayed up pretty late that night. I went to bed at like 3 a.m. and it had like 5,000 views. And I'm like, okay, well, that's okay. Because up to that point, you know, if I posted like a match clip on Facebook, it maybe got a couple hundred views, you know? So I was like, okay, 5,000, that's cool. So I went to bed, I woke up and it was at 25,000. And throughout the day, I was kind of like, okay, that's a lot. Like, is this, I was kind of thinking like, is this how everyone is on TikTok? Is it just like that easy to get views? And then within 24 hours, it had gotten to over 100,000. And I was like, okay, well, let's ride this momentum and let's post the second video. And within 24 hours of that one being up, it was at 200,000. So then I started to panic because I was like, I got to post stuff again. I got to post something tonight. And I didn't have anything. So I just went and found a clip from an OVW match that I thought was like, it was my lariat. And it was just like a really good lariat that I threw. And it didn't do the same numbers. It did like 10,000, but like, that's still, you know,
not
respectable.
bad.
Yeah. For, you know, I was like, okay, well, I get it. I guess wrestling clips aren't going to be the thing that gets the most views, but yeah, that's how it started. Was just, it kind of took off immediately.
And forgive me for not remembering this offhand, but what were the very first ones that you filmed that kind of started the movement?
The very first video was I was making fun of the spot that guys do where they have a guy in the corner and they'll like run and give them a European uppercut and then run to the other side and slam into the buckle as hard as they can before running back. I was making fun of that spot because it doesn't make any sense.
Right.
They hit the turnbuckles harder when they're throwing themselves into it than when someone else throws them into it. So that was the first one that I did. And it actually was like, you know, some of my videos have gotten me some backlash. That one seemed to be people just like realizing, oh, it's just a goofy thing. It's funny. You know, it didn't really get any like backlash or anything. The second video, if I remember right, was the first indie versus pro video that I did.
Okay.
Where the first one was like, I did a very elaborate string of like chain wrestling just to get into a headlock. And then I slapped my thigh just as a joke. And then like the pro version was just like a lock up headlock. So that was the second one I did, and that one blew up even more. But that one actually did get some heat for me. But
Did it?
A little bit, because it's just people don't like the thing that I got the most was people saying like, oh, so Owen Hart is indie now, and I'm like, well, I mean, no, but like you kind of understand what I'm saying, like
right.
they're just trying to give me some heat, but
trying to stir the pot, play devil's advocate a little bit.
Exactly.
That's always good when you're making some noise. That means you're doing something right. Whether people are upset or cheering for you, you're getting the attention, and that's exactly what it's supposed to do, is draw eyes onto you and your content.
Yeah, I mean, it's the old saying of any publicity is good publicity. So, as long as they're talking, as long as they're commenting and sharing and stuff like that, like they can say whatever they want.
I think we should maybe play a couple of these videos, Julie, if you want to take a look at a couple of them.
Jack, I don't know if you noticed, but I did a friendly stalk of your Instagram the other day looking for some of these.
And the one I'm going to start off with, and I'm going to start off with this just because of the shirt that you're wearing, because I have the exact same shirt, and it's the Ralphie shirt with the Super Nintendo Chalmers. Yes. Yeah. So let's go ahead and play this one here.
Wrestling promoter, the Heritage Inn.
Finally, there he is. Hey.
You're trying to get paid right now, are you?
No. What's the deal with that hotel you put us up in?
Oh, you mean the Heritage Inn?
Yeah.
What are you talking about? It's a great place. Got a great deal on it. $25 a night. You can't beat that.
I mean, we didn't even have hot water.
Oh, see, well, they got this thing going on. There's two buildings, so they kind of they alternate each day which one gets the hot water. Trust me, tomorrow you'll have a real hot shower. Really hot. Like really hot.
There are also some brown stains on the mattress.
Oh, that's what new mattresses do these days. I mean, I guess you're just too poor to have a new mattress at home.
There was also some drug deals going on, in the hallways.
Oh, well, that's just the locals, so you can just ignore them.
The door to the room next to ours also had crime scene tape on it.
No, that wasn't a crime scene. They're remodeling. They're gonna make the place so much even nicer than it already is.
But also, when we walked in to check in, there was a guy. he was pleasuring himself right there in the lobby.
That's just the night manager. Don't worry about him. Just walk on past. Just make sure not to make eye contact or lick your lips in any way, okay?
Oh my God.
So you probably saw this. It says based on a true story.
Yes, that was going to be my question, was when you say true story, how much of this is the true story and how much of this was added for comedic value?
Everything except the last bit about the night manager is completely true.
Wow.
It was a hotel in South Bend, Indiana, and I went there. We had some shows up there, and we stayed there for a couple nights, and it was the most terrifying hotel I've ever stayed in. Shark Boy is on record, because I was filming stuff, and he is on record saying that this is the worst hotel I've ever stayed in.
Wow.
So
the crime scene tape was true.
Yes.
I'm trying to think what else.
It
might drug deals.
It might have been. If it wasn't a drug deal, it was probably a prostitution deal.
It was definitely something illegal happening.
Something nefarious going on for sure.
Yes.
And the hot water thing is true too. There was two different buildings, and they alternated which one got hot water.
Oh man.
Yeah.
Let's play this one here, because since we're talking social media, we're going to go look at the one that says the most overdone pro wrestling social media post now.
I loved this.
Yeah, let's go to this one here.
And I've seen so many of these ones too, which is I think that's the part of all of this that makes these so fun, is for all of us that are involved in wrestling or in some way, shape, or form, we've all seen this before.
Yes.
Somewhere.
The most overdone pro wrestling social media posts.
I love that one. Always after a big fight. Let's run it back, brother.
I've done this before.
Oh, Julie's guilty. See you soon.
I thought this one was hilarious.
The most overdone pro wrestling.
Where did you get that music from, Jack? That's some interesting music right there.
It's
That
perfect,
is from it's from Nintendo. It's
I was gonna say it sounded like a video game. Yeah.
Yeah, I think it's like the like the Me shop or something like that from the Nintendo DS.
Okay.
Yeah.
One of the other ones
I use a lot of video game music in my videos.
Okay. One of the other ones I really liked was also like the Christmas one, because you always see that at the holidays of like all the play on words of those Christmas ones, seasons beatings and yeah, it's like on everybody's flyer.
I will say the first show that I was ever on, and it was for Pro Wrestling Action. This was December of 2022, and I absolutely adore the promoter Dan Max Shaw. He's a very good friend of mine. But I was reminded of that show by this video because the show's name, it was Winter Wonder Slam.
Ooh, okay.
Which was, I think that's actually a pretty good Christmas pun, but okay. I definitely found the Christmas puns to be very relatable.
Listen, I like a lot of these videos, like people might think I'm making fun of stuff, but it's all in good fun, and I love puns. Exactly. So like when people do like good puns with show names, I really enjoy it. Some people, they'll just like blatantly just rip off like a movie and just name the show after a movie. I'm like, you're not even trying.
Right. Yeah, and I think that's the thing about all of these videos that's so great is obviously as performers in professional wrestling, whether you're a wrestler, whether you're like me, ring announcer, interviewer, manager, whatever you do, it's the social media piece, especially in this day and age, is so important. And normally, you see a lot of people posting match clips and the flyers and things of that nature. So to be able to do something different, and also to be able to do something that appeals maybe not just to the fans that think it's funny, but to the people in the locker room that are looking at it and they're like, okay, yeah, I've experienced this myself. Yeah. I think that's what really makes this unique is, I'm watching these videos, and I think that anybody who's been in a wrestling locker room to whatever degree, you can see bits and pieces in all of these where you're like, okay, yeah, I have seen people do this before, and it's fun. I think it's all in good fun.
And I try to make it that way. I mean, obviously, I kind of consider the videos to be more satire than anything. But, and I'll be totally honest, like, I make fun of like indie wrestling, and like when I say the super indie style, I think people know what I'm talking about.
Yes.
And admittedly, it's not my favorite style of wrestling, but at the end of the day, like I'm always going to be like an advocate for the wrestlers.
Absolutely.
So I tell them, like, if that's what makes you money and what gets you over, then do it. It's not for me. It's not what I like. And, just because I don't like your style of wrestling doesn't mean that I don't support you as a wrestler. Right. So, please, take everything that I say with a grain of salt. It's not meant to be, it's not meant to be like mean in any way. I'm not trying to I'm not trying to put you down. It's just, just trying to have fun and poke fun at wrestling.
Right. And there's some people that are really great at that style.
Wild Boy asked, how did you like wrestling the cheese, and when you do it again?
I would wrestle the cheese every day of the week. Have you guys had the cheese on the show?
Yes. Well, I have twice. Yeah.
Wonderful dude. Yeah, I went down and I wrestled him at ALW down in Florida about a year ago. And we had a lot of fun.
Yeah, no, he's a good guy. He's doing a lot of stuff with Pro Wrestling Action and
yeah. Oh man. He gave me, so he made special t-shirts for that match, because I don't know if you guys ever seen like my red shirt. It's just like my logo.
Right.
So he did the same thing, except it was a yellow shirt and it said the cheddar and jack cheese.
Oh.
And it's like the best thing ever.
Right.
It's so good.
You want to know what's funny? So I was actually at an indie show this weekend to support one of my friends. She was wrestling for promotion up here called XWA, and there is actually a wrestler in New York State, Massachusetts. His name is Mikey Cheese, and he was teaming up with someone named the American Avenger, and their tag team was American Cheese. So I think that this might be a little dream match right here. The two cheese teams. I have to make the match graphic at some point, but I think that this could be something, Tony, that.
Yeah, I was gonna say, Julie, it doesn't get any cheddar than that. You know, it's just
I'm sure Cheese would be more than happy to come up to the Northeast.
Yeah, no, Cheese is a good dude. I love having him on the show. Yeah, definitely a good dude. And yeah, let's get a little bit more Jack Cheddar Cheese action going on here for sure.
It ain't easy being cheesy.
No, it's not. 100%. Now, since you started doing these videos, Jack, I mean, is it hard to get people to participate in this, or like people lining up, or is it maybe a little mixture of both?
I've never had anyone turn me down when I ask them. I get a lot of people suggesting videos to me, and if it's a wrestler, if it's someone that I know, I like to try to include them in it. But for the most part, yeah, I've never really. I've had a lot of I'll go to like a company that I've never worked for before, and they'll be like, "Hey, man, if you want to film something here, please feel free." You know, I mean, it's your thing. So I'm sure the guys would love to be a part of it. So it's almost like they kind of pressure me to film something, and then I'm like. I feel bad because I don't have any ideas at that moment. Because I keep a list of every idea that I have in my phone. Like my wife and I have a joint on the notes app, and we can just both go in and edit it whenever we get an idea. And so I have hundreds of ideas. It's just a matter of the right circumstances, the right people, and that sort of thing. But yeah, sometimes I get promoters that are just like, "Oh, Jay, feel free to film something if you want to. The boys would love it."
Well, it's good for everyone. The two cheese team match might be careful, might be cheesy. Fair enough.
Yes, fair enough. Yes.
I was going to say, number one, at some point when we work together in the future, Jack, which I feel is inevitably going to happen at some point in time, it is a bucket list item of mine to be in one of those videos.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. We can make that happen.
And number two, I did have an idea. I had one idea floating around in my brain, and I'm not 100% sure if this is something that you've done already, but I thought it would be something fun for the three of us to discuss on here. Are things that are normal in wrestling culture that are weird in real life culture. For example, the clip that you always see on WWE TV when someone's watching a match backstage and the TV's here and everyone's watching it from a diagonal.
Right.
Or someone that I work with actually was telling me this story within the past couple of months. I guess his roommate had his door taken off the hinges for whatever reason. And I guess it had been like that for a while. So I guess he approached his roommate and he was like, "Hey, are you going to use that door? Because if not, I would love to borrow it so that somebody could put me through it." And the roommate was just like, what is this? So I thought that was kind of got my wheels turning. I thought that was kind of a fun idea of things that we see in wrestling that are normal to us that aren't actually normal in real life.
Kind of like how if someone's talking to somebody, they suddenly have no peripheral vision of someone trying to attack them.
Exactly.
Right.
Or
they're facing this way, they're right here, and I didn't even see them.
The other one that I was thinking of is when you're in the middle of a match and all of a sudden someone's music hits and you're so distracted. You're so distracted by this person coming out that you have to stop and look at the ramp, and you simply cannot focus on your match anymore. Things like that. Tony, I don't know if you have any that.
Yes, I do, and I probably am guilty of some of them myself. That I'm thinking about it because I actually annoy one of my coworkers quite often because I'll start saying just phrases in Jim Ross wrestling voice, "It's lunchtime, let's go," As God is my witness, it's time to go home. And nobody talks like this, but they're not meant to say it'll just come out I don't know what specific phrases, but I know I do catch myself sometimes just saying day-to-day phrases in like a Jim Ross excitement type voice for absolutely no reason. So it's definitely one of the things that I know annoys one person for sure. Definitely.
Yeah, I'm having trouble thinking of any off the top of my head, but I do think that's an interesting idea.
There's definitely if we sat down and really like hammered them out, I think we could come up with.
Well, I mean, we do have a group chat now on Instagram, so
we do.
We could always just pitch ideas.
Yes, definitely.
Yeah.
There we go.
And it's funny. I think we could play off something with podcasters because I always do get after shows. I mean, not to toot our own horns, but like a lot of people will tell me and Julie, like, thank you guys for the interview. You didn't come at me with the same like 8 questions that every single person did ask me. So it could be podcaster, going on a podcast. This is what goes on, and it's just like. So, what's your favorite wrestling hold? And where did you grow up? And who trained you? And it's like the end, It's like a lot of people do give us compliments on trying to come up with some original content for you guys to talk and discuss. So that could be an idea for something down the road as well, too.
And honestly, that's something that I appreciate because I don't do a lot of podcasts, partly because of just my schedule doesn't really allow it. I'm usually busy during the evening, so like. That's usually the best time to record, but it's part of the reason too. Is just like I don't want to answer the same questions over and over, and I understand like it's new to their audience, so I don't want to say like they're bad podcasters or anything, but it's just like I can only answer the same questions so many times, and obviously I expect to get to talk about the TikTok stuff. That's I can't get away from that, but yeah, I appreciate when people ask interesting questions and not just kind of the standard like roll call of questions.
Well, speaking of going a little off, could we talk about the Funko Pops in the background? You have quite the collection back there.
Oh, sure.
I was also curious because I haven't collected in quite some time. I kind of narrowed down my collection to just a few of like my all-time favorites. I think
I've done the same too. I got like 12 left, I think.
Right here sitting next to me, I have Bret Hart and I have one of the Chris Jericho Funko Pops that I own. But are there any specific ones that are like near and dear to your heart? Any specific people that are near and dear to your heart?
Let me take a look. So like as far as like the wrestling ones, I have all the Undertaker ones, obviously. I have like the Undertaker Paul Bearer 2-pack. But actually, let me I'm gonna grab this one.
Go for it, yeah. I think mine are narrowed down to like my Sting Funko Pops. I have my Goonies Funko Pops and my Buffy the Vampire Slayer Funko Pops. I think those are the ones that have survived the test of time for me.
Yeah. The mistake that I made was I took mine out of the original boxes. So now trying to resell them out of the box is a lot harder.
Yeah, and let's face it, they're not going for much even in the box at this point in time right now.
I picked
what do you got, Jack? Oh my God, he came over with a bundle. Let's check it out.
So this one is like the main inspiration for the
Is that the Major League?
Yep, Rick Wild Thing Vaughn.
Oh.
Originally, before I was the veteran, I was Wild Thing Jack Vaughn.
Oh.
And I'm a huge Simpsons fan.
Okay.
At least when it comes to like the good seasons, which are like 2 through 9.
Right.
So I have the King and Kodos.
You have to have those. Yes, we still own those as well too. Like my wife has Simpsons in the office, and I have a couple of like the 80s and pop culture things. Yeah.
Yes. And this one actually, the Groundskeeper Willie from the Treehouse of Horror. So that one's kind of sentimental to me. That was actually given to me by a buddy. Like I had a buddy that passed away back in 2020, and his girlfriend gave me that when it was one of his. So that's a sentimental one to me.
Absolutely. The Titan of Poetry's in the house. Great interview. Tony Entertainment Forever. Thank you. King Atlas is in the house. Thank you. Rewind 89 says, yeah, Buffy the Vampire Slayer is definitely a dime piece, and she had integrity. You don't find that in TV shows anymore. That's for sure. There's nothing like that on TV anymore. That's for sure.
I'm a big fan of the Buffy movie.
You're a fan of the movie, really? Okay.
I like the movie. Are you guys not fans of the movie?
Well, the movie it's so funny. Like when the movie came out, it was kind of like bashed and like, and then the TV show came out and everybody fell in love with the show. But we did go back and recently watch the movie, and it's actually pretty entertaining though. Like Yeah, I think a lot of people are going to say, "Oh, the movie, oh no, like, but it does have like that like guilty pleasure type of movie feel to it. I think
It's a very early '90s movie.
Yes, it is. Yeah,
And I love it. It's great.
I know it wasn't meant what the creator wanted it to be, and that's where he got the TV show from. A little bit more dark and pop culture-y, but yeah, it's fun with Luke Perry in it. It's a good movie.
I believe it has Ben Affleck's first movie role.
Oh,
really?
wow.
Okay.
He is the basketball player on the opposing team at the game at like the end of the movie, who like he hands the ball to the vampire kid. It's like,
oh
just take
shoot.
it, man. Yeah, it's Ben Affleck.
Oh wow! Okay, another reason to go back and watch it. Just it's funny when you see some of these like actors how they kind of got their start and like just like little tiny cameos. That's an interesting fact. I like that.
There you go.
Now, wow,
I have weird facts about old movies.
That's okay. That's okay. We could probably talk weird facts for months then.
Well, while we're on the topic of pop culture things, and also now that you mention old movies, this gets my wheels turning with a couple more questions for you. So when I was in high school, actually, I had the opportunity to take a film appreciation class. And so I have kind of gone through phases. Sometimes I don't have as much time to be like up on different movies, but I've gone through different phases of being very interested in movies and like following some of the Oscar nominations certain years. And when I took this class years ago, we watched the AFI, some of the AFI top 50 movies of all time. Are there any classic movies or even just like other movies that you happen to like that are on like the Veteran Jack Vaughn's top 5, top 10 list of all time?
So I believe, if I remember correctly, because I remember seeing that list, because I had when I first went to college, we had a class where we had to do a report on a movie that was on that list, and I chose Rocky.
Okay.
I don't know if Rocky's still on the list or not. It might have gotten pushed off, but yeah,
it
so Rocky.
Be.
Yeah,
it should be.
Pretty much every Rocky film, including Rocky 5, is gold. I don't care what anyone says. But yeah, the original Rocky is an all-timer for me. Terminator 2 is my all-time favorite movie.
There we go.
Anything with Arnold from the 80s and 90s, I'm pretty into. When it comes to like comedies, I like anything from Mel Brooks.
Yes.
So Spaceballs and like Robin Hood Men in Tights are all-timers. Wayne's World is like
a classic. Yeah,
it's so good. So so I was like, so do you guys have those movies that like they're like your comfort movies where like that they're not great, but like maybe you grew up watching them?
Yes.
and like even like now as an adult, you kind of put them on in the background all the time.
Yes.
So the two that, well, I guess there's three. So the one that I do that's actually a really good movie is the first live action Ninja Turtles movie.
Oh, hell yeah. Yes, the music is so good in that movie. Yes, it's so good.
But the other two are Don't Tell Mom the Babysitter's Dead.
Oh, Christina Applegate. Yes, 100%. Yes.
You might know what this movie is. Some people, it's like 50-50 people know what it is or not, but The Wizard.
Dude, I was just going to say The Wizard. I swear to God. I swear to God. That is I can pull my wife out here right now and she will tell you The Wizard is, oh my God. Me and Jack, I found the one other person in the world that knows about The Wizard. This is the best interview ever.
Did you guys just become best friends?
Yes. Yes, we did. Yes, because we went to California. My wife and I went to California about 6 years ago, and we had to go to the dinosaur where little Jimmy Woods goes to see California. And I took a picture. I'm going to send it to you it might be on my other Instagram, but I took a picture holding a lunchbox, looking up at the big dinosaur as if I was and I was wearing a shirt that says The Wizard. So yes, that is my guilty pleasure movie of all time is The Wizard. Oh, I love it. Oh, me and Jack are best friends forever. Yes. Arnold movies, The Wizard. I can't believe he just said The Wizard. Like this best interview ever for sure. I'm done.
It's like, it's one of those movies that like, if I'm staying up late and I just don't feel like doing anything, like if I just want to sit on my phone, like I'll put it on in the background and it's just like, I know every line of that movie.
Yes.
Like, I probably watch it like every other month at least.
Okay.
Julie, have you ever seen The Wizard?
I have not seen The Wizard, so I feel very left out of this bromance.
You can't find it on streaming or anything. You have to own the DVD or the Blu-ray. Yeah. It might be on YouTube in like a bad version or something.
I was gonna say, I was like gonna say, now I feel like I have to go watch it so I can feel like I'm part of the group.
And then you have to go get 50,000 on Double Dragon, and then we'll call it a day. That's for sure.
I was gonna say, I do have a comfort movie, and I don't know if either of you guys would have seen this. It's like one of those movies, and I feel like, Jack, I feel like you would have an appreciation for this type of movie because of your sense of humor. But it's like one of those movies that is intentionally so bad that it becomes kind of funny. And it's on Amazon Prime. It's called They Came Together. And it has a lot of the cast members, people that have been like on SNL over the years. And it's one of those movies that's like intentionally, it's basically a romantic comedy making fun of a romantic comedy, but it's so outlandish and stupid that it kind of becomes funny. And I've picked up some of my my family members and we've picked up like certain catchphrases from that movie. So that's like another thing where like I can put it on in the background and like it has a significance to me and to my family, but then to most people they're just like, what is this?
Yeah. No, I get it. That's how I am with The Wizard. Like people, like for most people, they're like, yeah, that movie's terrible, or they've never even heard of it. And I'm like, well, it's one of the best movies ever made, so you need to watch it. I feel like we need to have a viewing party.
Let's do it. Oh my God. Yes. Dude, I'm so down. And Jack, I'm going to tell you a funny story about The Wizard. Like, I didn't get to go see it in the theater. I remember because it was being advertised because they were promoting Super Mario Brothers 3 at the time. Yeah. So it's kind of like a big commercial for Nintendo in a roundabout way. Yeah. Fred Savage is in it. And I remember I didn't get to go see it in the movie. And then my dad came home with a VHS tape from Blockbuster. He's like, I rented you The Wizard. I'm like, yes. I was so excited. No, it was a movie called Wizard. And it was about some dude in his garage doing magic tricks. And I was like, this was like traumatic for me because I was like, I didn't get to go see it in the theater. Now I get this VHS from Blockbuster. And it's just called Wizard, not The Wizard.
I love that it was the wrong thing, though.
It was the wrong thing.
Well, I remember in the early to mid 2000s, I was trying to find The Wizard on DVD, but like before it came out, it was like The Wiz would be the only thing that you could like. You'd Google The Wizard and The Wiz would just come up. So that's what I remember about that time.
Here, Rewind 89 has again one of my comfort movies. We watch it every holiday season. Is Jingle All the Way with Arnold and Sinbad. I actually just put my Turbo Man away. I actually have a Turbo Man doll that's usually back there where the cone is, but I'm in the process of moving. So like it got packed away, but I do have a Turbo Man doll. So yeah, anything Arnold with me is yes.
That's like one of my wife's favorite movies. So yeah, when the Turbo Man came to like Walmart, I was like, yeah, we gotta have that.
Yes, the giant Turbo Man. Yeah, I own it as well too.
Oh, it's fantastic.
Now, while we're on the topic of pop culture things, the other question that I wanted to ask, first and foremost, I wanted to draw attention to the shirt that you are wearing, Jack, because that is something that I noticed right away when we joined the stream tonight. I'm a big Creed fan. I know that a lot of people in wrestling in particular are big Creed fans, especially now that they've come back and they're on tour. And I think for a lot of us, it's a lot of like nostalgia, because for me it reminds me of like the video packages that we used to see on TV when I was little, the wrestling video packages. So would you like to tell us a little bit about your shirt and your love of Creed, and then maybe also I know you had talked a little bit about Limp Bizkit, some other musical inspirations in your life?
So I grew up as a nu metal kid. So when I was in junior high and high school, it was the late 90s, early 2000s. So Korn is my all-time favorite band. And pretty much any band that was associated with them from that era, I'm still into. The whole thing with Creed, and like I feel like it's one of those things where just when people get older, they stop caring about what people think about their tastes and things. So like, I'm sure we all remember Nickelback being the most hated band in the world for a long time. But now it's kind of like, you know what? Nickelback actually freaking rules. And they always did. Yeah, exactly. And Creed's the same way. Like they were always good, but they were just like, maybe they were a little bit cheesy, you know? And it just kind of became cool to hate them. but now as we get older, we begin, and then it happened with Limp Bizkit too. So like after Chocolate Starfish, I feel like they didn't really do anything of note, but now it's like they're selling out festivals, so it's like it's what's old is new again, and it is a lot of nostalgia. But I have a 12-year-old niece who's starting to get into a lot of the bands that I was listening to growing up. So like we introduced her to bands like Limp Bizkit, and she loves them. So yeah, those bands, like I was the same way. Like I had that period of time where I kind of got out of them and was kind of like, yeah, they're kind of lame now and blah, blah, blah. But then I, just mature a little bit, get a little bit older. I'm like, you know what? It's still good. It was, especially like the stuff that was good before. Like it's even better now in some ways.
Yeah. And I have to admit, when you mentioned Nickelback, I feel like at some point, maybe like, I don't know, I want to say like a little over 10 years ago, within the past like 10 to 15 years, I feel like it almost became like a funny part of internet culture to hate on Nickelback. But I'm not going to lie, when I am in the right mindset, I will put on that Nickelback only playlist and I'll like it.
Yeah, it's good. They're great.
I like them. And I think that you also made a really good point about a lot of things from like the early mid 2000s coming back, because I feel like I'm at a similar point in my life right now. And maybe Tony, maybe you can attest to this a little bit as well.
I've never left the 90s, Julie. I've never left the 90s.
Yeah.
So.
I feel like as an adult now, I'm almost going through like the angsty teenage phase that I missed. And I'm circling back to a lot of the music from that era. And it's like almost like when I get bored from the music of today, I start going back down the rabbit hole to the music of like that era. And I'm like, oh my God, I forgot how good this was. And even to the point of I admittedly made a My Sacrifice video for myself as a ring announcer.
Oh, that's wonderful.
Yeah. I mean, and normally I think that was, that was a big thing when we were younger was, all the wrestlers on TV. It was like if you had a My Sacrifice video, it was like you were following their story of sacrifice as a professional wrestler. And so I felt it was important to show My Sacrifice as the ring announcer as well.
I think part of it too for me is just that, and maybe it's just me becoming an old man, but like it's so hard for me to find new bands that I like. Because I feel like a lot of when I got out of like the new metal stuff, I started getting into a lot of like the Christian metalcore scene and like bands in that genre. And all metalcore now sounds exactly the same. So I don't like any of it. So like I'll still go back and listen to the stuff from like the 2000s and early 2010s, like the crabcore stuff, and just like, oh man, this early Bring Me the Horizon is still so good. But
yes. That's right? Another group that I love.
But yeah, it's hard for me to find new stuff that I like. I'll like the new stuff from the old bands, but that's about it.
Yeah, my wife and I actually tried to go see Limp Bizkit. I think it was last year, about 2 years ago, and they actually canceled the concert at the venue because they were afraid that they were going to mosh too much it was supposed to be at this like intimate, fancy, I actually saw Guns N' Roses at it last year. So I don't know why they thought it was going to be anything, crazier, but they were afraid that I guess there was rumors out a giant mosh pit was going to break out. And we stood in line for like 2 hours. And then they finally said, nope, concert's canceled. Everybody go home. And we're like, what the hell? Like, like, come on, we're all like in our 30s and 40s. Like,
we're not gonna mosh.
No, yes. Jack, I'm actually gonna bring up a picture right now. I found it actually here.
Oh, perfect.
You'll appreciate this. Here you go. So that's me holding the Wizard DVD in front of the dinosaur that Jimmy Woods goes to see out in California. So I have a couple more pictures, but that's the one that I just found right now. Yes.
Fun fact, and I'm sure you probably already know this. It's the same dinosaurs from Pee-wee's Big Adventure.
It is, yes, correct. Yeah. And actually, they sell Pee-wee's Big Adventure merchandise inside of the dinosaur because you can go in and there's like a gift shop in there. So they have like Large Marge or whatever, like the shirts or whatever. But nothing representing the Wizards. So I was very, very upset. But I did buy a little dinosaur from there, and it says California on there.
That is a little upsetting that they would only recognize one and not the other.
Right. They're both equal. No, I feel like one is more important in pop culture. That's just me.
Pee-wee's Big Adventure is another one of those movies that I absolutely adore. But
yes, my mom wouldn't let me watch it as a kid. She thought it was well, my uncle would actually put it on and like let us watch it. But my mom was like, "No, this is just stupid, and it's going to kill your brain cells."
It's the thing is, I think it's funnier now because I understand the like innuendos.
Right.
You know, it's kind of like Wayne's World. Like coming back to that, like I understand the jokes so much better now, so it's even funnier than it was when I was younger.
Yeah, Wayne's World 1 is a freaking classic. Like it is so good. Wayne's World 2 is good, but man, part 1 is just. It's up there. It's like definitely like comic gold with Mike Myers and Dana Carvey for sure.
Now, one thing that I did want to circle back to, I had a couple more questions about some of the TikTok videos because I know that
we probably should get back to talking about wrestling.
We just derailed completely.
Now that we totally derailed, we'll start circling back to wrestling, circling back at least to the TikTok videos a little bit. My first question, and I know you talked a little bit about like professional wrestling versus indie wrestling, and we talked about like everyone having their own unique style and everything, but what was there anything in particular that really made you want to lean into the thigh slap?
So I put it in a video and I did it as a joke and kind of just poking fun at the fact that guys do it all the time, and it was a big hit among the people that enjoyed the video. And I just decided to kind of keep doing it, and I would just kind of, sprinkle it in videos here and there. And then eventually got to the point to where if I don't put one in a video, it's the first comment I get, like, "Where was the thigh slap?" And then, and because the videos have gotten so big, that's now a part of my whole shtick in the ring too. Like people chant for the thigh slap. It's insane.
And that's also, I mean, it's funny how I feel like Chris Jericho has said this in the past, that some of the things that get so over in wrestling are things like that just happen by complete accident. You can never, you can go into whatever you're doing with like a name and a moniker and all these things in mind, but like sometimes it's just something random like that happens that gets over with the fans. And so there were two other videos that I wanted to touch on. One question that I had for you: what do you have against the 5'2" girl going over in the battle royal asking for a friend? Just to throw it out there, I'm only 5 feet tall. This girl's got 2 inches on me.
I know that everyone understands that wrestling is not legitimate competition now.
Right.
But for me personally, I still enjoy stories that make sense.
Yes, absolutely.
And that's why I don't, I know that like intergender wrestling is a big thing right now, and I'm not necessarily against it, but I don't necessarily ever want to participate in it because I'm 6'6", 240 pounds. And unless I'm wrestling someone who's like Awesome Kong or China, like it just doesn't make sense for me to get my butt kicked. The way that I kind of look at it is, if it was an MMA fight, are you going to bet on me or this girl? And it's not, I hope that it doesn't come off as like misogynist or sexist or anything, but it's just, I want my matches and the wrestling that I watch to make as much sense as it can, because at the end of the day, we're telling a story. And if I watch a story that doesn't make sense, it loses me.
Yes, absolutely. I'm just teasing because it's me. I'm the 5 foot girl.
Oh, you exaggerated your height.
Yeah. And then the other video, there was one other that I wanted to bring up. And that was when you finally get booked on a show with your social media friends in real life. Because I feel like that's something that has happened to me multiple times before, where especially this day and age with Instagram and Facebook, it's like so easy to network with people and make connections with people. And then it's like, you finally get booked on a show together. And it was funny because I did some interviews back during Mania Week at the 2300 Arena, and I interviewed one of the interviews that I did was with Teal Piper and Deimos.
Yeah.
And I knew right away that was one of the first things I don't think we talked about during the actual interview, but afterwards when we were just kind of like chit-chatting back and forth, as soon as I mentioned that video, he just like lit up.
Yeah. So yeah, they were two people that it's weird because it's like you become friends with people on social media, and then when you finally meet in person, it's like you've known each other your whole lives. You know, it's like when I met Bob in person for the first time. Like we had been friends on social media for so long, it's just like a natural. It just feels normal. So yeah, Demos was actually, it was funny because he had messaged me about trying to find a place in the Midwest where we could have a match. He wanted to work with me. And it just so happened that he was he and Teal were coming to a company that I worked for. He didn't know that I worked there. I just saw the advertisement of them coming, and I messaged him like, "Hey, dude, like I work for this company every week." And he's like, "Oh," so he got a hold of the booker and said, "Hey, like, what's the odds that we could get me in there with Jack?" And then yeah, we set up a match, and yeah, it's kind of how it happened. So yeah, it was just he and I just kind of hit it off on social media, and I guess he and Teal were big fans of the videos, and we just became buddies.
One of the questions I do want to ask you, Jack, because you mentioned Rocky as your movie, and you mentioned we've talked a lot of music, so I feel like it's only appropriate for me to ask you if they were to make a workout montage video for the veteran Jack Vaughn, a la Rocky, what song would you want that put to?
So I Want It All from Queen as my entrance music. So I feel like I'd have to go with that.
Okay, perfect.
Or The Best from Tina Turner.
Okay, I like that.
I got to go old school.
Yes. Let's make that montage happen. I want to see the Tina Turner version, personally.
I want to see the Tina Turner version.
Yes.
Too. I'm not going to lie.
Well, I could say something, like heavy metal and be like, yeah, let's do it to Cannibal Corpse or something. But like, it doesn't really fit the whole veteran thing.
No, I like the Tina Turner. I'm digging that one. I think that would be fire for sure.
While we're on the topic, now that we've circled back to wrestling a little bit, we've talked about meeting people on social media, networking with them on social media, and then meeting them in real life. Are there any dream opponents, like anyone on the indies right now, or even for a major company that you haven't stepped toe to toe with yet, that maybe you'd like to use this opportunity to call out?
As far as like, I could say like all kinds of guys that work for the big companies, but obviously they're a little unobtainable right now. The guys that I've known them for a long time. I've never had an opportunity to wrestle Jake something.
Oh,
so I would love to be getting there with him. I mean, he works for AEW now, but I would love to wrestle Samoa Joe. And I mean, Joe Hendry's the biggest thing in the world right now. He's the big internet guy. So I feel like internet guy versus internet guy would be pretty good. Actually, this past weekend, I actually had one of those matches. So when I first when the TikTok stuff started blowing up, everyone said that I needed to either wrestle or team up with Silas Young. And we actually, I wrestled him for the first time this past Saturday.
And what promotion was that for, Jack?
That was for a company called Wrestling for a Cause. They are in the Tulsa area.
Okay.
Yep.
Now, Jack, I want to ask you, like, obviously you've done a lot of interesting videos. You are the veteran, so you've done and seen a lot of interesting things. So if I like to throw out the term bizarro as just, going back to like the Superman bizarro, like something just weird and out there that has happened to you, whether it was a fan interaction or a moment in the ring or anything like that, a meet and greet that has happened to you that just kind of blew your mind. Is there a moment that comes to the top of your head, Jack?
Anytime that someone notices me outside of a show kind of blows my mind, because I tend to underestimate how big the social media stuff has gotten. And it's funny because in actually this past weekend when I was walking into my hotel to check in, and these two people walked by and stopped me because they recognized me. And I just assumed that they were in town, like they were locals that were going to the show. And they're like, "Oh, there's a show tonight?" I'm like, "Oh yeah, it's, down the road." And they're actually from Vancouver that had flown into Tulsa to go to a convention that was in town. And they just happened to know who I was, and we were in the same hotel. But the big one for me was last year. Once a year, some buddies of mine and I go to Europe, and I wrestled in Romania last year, and before that match started, people in Romania were chanting for a thigh slap.
Wow.
Worldwide.
That was the moment where I'm like, this isn't real. There's no way that this is actually happening right now.
It's funny, when I interviewed Hollywood, Haley J, she kind of said the similar thing. I asked her about a bizarre moment, and she was just kind of like, when people just randomly recognize me, and she's like, I don't think I'm famous or anything like that, even though, she was kind of like the centerpiece there on Wrestlers, but she kind of felt the same way. It was just kind of like, like, how do people know who I am? Like, she still finds that very odd and weird too.
Yeah. And, I think it's even weirder for me just because I spent so long kind of being obscure, and it's just been within the last couple of years that things have gone well for me. So I hate when people tell me that, like, I'm a name, or that I'm a bigger name on the show or something, because it just doesn't feel right to me in a way. To me, like, I'm always just going to be one of the boys. And like, I hate when I go to, like, not that I hate it, but like sometimes I go to shows and they'll be like, "Oh, Jack, come in here. This is like the nice dressing room." And I'm like, "Oh, well, that's not necessary. I'm cool with just hanging out here with the guys." Like, I don't want to, like, cause you get on shows and like they'll bring in a huge name, and it'll, like, I remember I did a show that was at a high school. It was a benefit show, and they brought in a big name, and he just sat in like the office of the locker room, just sitting on his phone the whole time, went out, did his thing, came back, got his stuff, and left, and never even interacted with anybody. And like, I don't ever want to be that guy. Like, I love being in the locker room with everybody and like just kind of goofing around and being dumb. Like, that's as important to me as what actually goes on in the ring.
I have to wholeheartedly agree with you on that. And just jumping off of what you said, like, I've had the pleasure of being able to work with a couple of big names who have been really cool and like didn't demand any special treatment. They just like came right in with everybody and were super friendly. And a great example, someone that I worked with that I loved, was Juventud Guerrera. Back in the fall, I had the opportunity to announce him, and it was so cool because he was just so personable, just like came right backstage with everybody. And then when I went to Philly for Mania week, I was at the 2300 arena, and I'm kind of newer to the business than a lot of the people that were there, so I'm just kind of getting my bearings, and he comes right up to me and gives me a big hug, and I was like, that's so cool for a veteran, for a big name, to be that kind of a person that makes you feel welcome in an environment like that. So I definitely appreciate that standpoint coming from you as well.
And I feel like sometimes younger wrestlers might get a weird impression about me because of the character and because of the videos. And I don't want them to think that I'm like one of those like old bitter men. So I always try to make it a point whenever there's like especially if there's like young guys that are coming in to do some matches for OVW or something, I always try to do my best to like say hello and kind of talk to them. And then, if I have a chance to watch their matches, give them some feedback. But yeah, I think that's important to like welcome people to the business rather than try to scare them off like used to be the case. I do still believe that like, hey, like you should kind of like get rid of the people that kind of don't belong. But like if they've done their training and they've proven that they want it, like, yeah, welcome them, like teach them, like, because ultimately they're the future. So why not welcome them and teach them the right way?
Absolutely. And I actually, bringing up OVW, I have to put over one of my friends real quick who started wrestling with OVW, Jason Hendricks. I know he just got injured recently, but he was somebody that I started working with and training with a little bit back in, I think, January of this year. And that kid can go. He can. I went to a camp with him back in January, and he was doing some really good stuff. So that's maybe another person in the future when he's healed up. Maybe I'd like to see you cross paths with at some point down in OVW.
I'm a big fan of Jason. Like he's one of those guys that I think is doing it the right way. Like he's not relying on people to get him anywhere. He's actually like going out and trying to find bookings, and he's willing to travel, and he's doing, he's not going to say no to a booking. So I actually have had a chance to work with him a couple months ago, but not in OVW. So maybe we can make that happen in the near future, or I guess whenever he's healed.
Now, I don't know if there's anything else that you want to touch on, Julie, because unless we want to go down the wizard path tonight and do a whole another 90-minute podcast here.
I guess one other thing that did pop to my mind, because we touched on it really briefly, was when you mentioned Hollywood Haley J, because Tony, I know that you had interviewed her back at WrestleCon, I believe.
It was during Mania weekend at WrestleCon, correct? Yeah.
And so we had several months ago, we had certified Luke Curtis on the show. And then we also had Joe Mack on the show back when they were part of the Overmen. And we talked pretty extensively with them about the filming of wrestlers and kind of their take on what it was like filming versus what we saw on Netflix, and just kind of what that publicity did for OVW. So I didn't know if you had any input on that. I know there were some people that I kind of saw. I know they focus more so on certain people than others in the docuseries, but like I definitely caught snippets of you and some others that I know in the background. And so I didn't know if you had any sort of a take on kind of how that documentary just seemed to skyrocket the I guess the visibility of OVW in the eyes of people in the wrestling business today.
Yeah. So when a lot of people ask me when the show came out why I wasn't a bigger part of it, and it's because I became like a normal roster member while they were about halfway through filming. So they had already kind of made up their mind who they were going to follow. So those clips are just because I just happened to be in the background. They weren't actually trying to film me. But yet, no, like as soon as the show dropped, like it kind of took on a life of its own. Like we sold out, like, I think it was like 12 straight weeks at the Davis Arena, and just the pay-per-view, like right before the show came out was huge. And I think we're still, obviously we've made some like upgrades to the arena and done some stuff like that, brought in some other wrestlers that could help, promote visibility. So I do still think that even though like a lot of the Netflix, hoopla, I guess, is kind of gone, I do still feel like that has brought in a lot of new fans and has really created a good amount of like visibility for us. Not that we're on like a national stage, but I do think that there's a lot more people that are kind of like, oh, OVW is still around. Well, let me check it out, because there's a lot of people that think that they died when they lost the contract with WWE. And I think, I'm not an OVW scholar. I don't know the whole history, but I do know that right now it's better than it's been since in the time that I've been there.
Yeah, no, OVW doing big things and just so much great talent there. And it's great that, OVW was chosen, because I think it's such a great territory or a great, focal point for people to see kind of like the rising stars of, professional wrestling, with like Freya the Slayer and, Layla Gray, and Tiffany Nieves was on there, and Dream Girl Elliott. And there's just so much talent there in OVW. And I just thought, Netflix did a great choice in picking them as the spotlight for their docuseries. And I would love to see, I mean, I know we've asked a couple people, oh, is they going to make a Wrestlers 2 with you guys? And nobody can really talk about it or whatever. But I would like to see, even if they don't do OVW again, I would like to see them focus on another company that's doing a lot of stuff too, and shed some more light on the world of independent professional wrestling, because it's definitely my favorite professional wrestling is the indie scene.
For sure. Yeah. And, I know I've had people ask me in podcasts, like, is there going to be a second season? Who knows? I mean, I feel like at this point, like, and I don't know anything like behind the scenes or anything, so this is all just me speculating, but I would assume probably not. And if there is, it's probably not going to be on Netflix because of WWE's deal. But, you know, I don't see, like, I feel like the story is already there for a season 2 because if they decided to follow OVW again, we can, I mean, just follow the rise, you know, the success of the show, and like just kind of follow what we're doing to try to keep the momentum. I mean, we just had a show a couple of weeks ago where we sold 1,600 tickets. So, I mean, we're definitely on the right path. So, yeah, I would love to see a second season, you know, hopefully like be a bigger part of it for me. But yeah, I think the show in general, just people, it's regardless of what company that they choose, it's good for independent wrestling as a whole.
Absolutely. Yeah, definitely. I would definitely love to see, Wrestlers season 2. And no matter if it's OVW or somewhere else, I think it deserves to be out there. That's for sure.
Yeah.
I completely agree. And one of my last questions that I do like to ask a lot of people as we kind of wrap up, I know we talked a little bit about like potential dream opponents. Are there any places that maybe you want to travel to, any promotions that you haven't worked for yet that are high on your radar?
Yeah, so I've never been out to the West Coast. So like companies out there like Defy and Prestige, I'd be interested in going out there. Deadlock would be one that I'd like to go to. I believe they're in Maryland. Those are the ones that really come to my mind. There's some other places like I've done some stuff with AAW in Chicago. But you know, it'd be cool to be like a bigger part of what they're doing. Those are the ones that kind of come to mind immediately as far as like the bigger independent companies. But you know, it's a good problem to have, but like my schedule's full right now. So if they are interested, they gotta book me a few weeks in advance at least.
There we go. Book the veteran way in advance. That's for damn sure.
I guess I should take this opportunity to be like, hey, I'm taking 2025 bookings.
Yes, because
yes.
that's another one of those
Here.
Posts.
Official announcement.
Yes, special announcement. I am accepting bookings for 2025. Just so everyone's in case aware. You thought I wasn't. Yes.
I didn't stop taking bookings because it's the end of the year.
Right.
Now, Jack, what do you have coming up and where can the people find you on social media?
Pretty much all social media. You can find me at Veteran Jack Vaughn. Let me look at my calendar here because I lose track of everywhere that I'm going.
It's not a bad problem to have.
No, not at all. So I'll be back at OVW next Thursday night on the 19th. And then that weekend, I will be in Cedarburg, Wisconsin for Great Lakes Championship Wrestling, followed by the next day at White River Wrestling in Indianapolis. And then I'll be doing some stuff with Joe Kazana Promotions. It's an NWA territory. And, you know, I'll be going there and, you know, just a lot of stuff, mostly in the Midwest. I don't have any. And then, sorry, I'm kind of like rambling here. October, I am going back to Europe again. I'm going to be doing a few days in Bulgaria where I'm going to be training. There's like a new school that's starting out there, and they asked me to come be a guest trainer for a few days.
Oh, wow.
And then from there, we're going to be spending a few days in Poland where we're going to be doing some more seminars and then ending it off with a big show.
Very cool. Well, enjoy the travel time. I mean, you get to travel and do what you love. I mean, that's the American dream right there.
Absolutely.
Well, yeah, go ahead, Joe.
Oh, that's okay. I was just going to say, Jack, thank you so much again. I know that you mentioned that you don't do a ton of podcasts necessarily, and so it means a lot to us that you chose to do this one. And like we said, we're super excited to have you. Awesome guest. Thank you so much for taking the time to do this. To put over my own social media real quick, for anybody who wants to keep up with me, I am on Instagram at The Crown Jewels. Crown is with an E at the end. It's the old English spelling. That's just how we roll here. And I have a couple of live shows coming up. The next 2 weekends, I will be at Rebel Spirit Pro Wrestling in Weymouth, Massachusetts, and then the following weekend in Marlborough, Massachusetts. And then early October 11th, I will be going down to CCW in Kissimmee, Florida. I will be making my debut long anticipated debut for CCW. So super excited about that.
Yeah, definitely. That's going to be awesome. I'll be covering CCW down here in Miami the first Saturday of the month. And then next week, actually just confirmed with my guest for next Thursday, I'm going to have Max Castellanos on here. He's making a lot of waves right now. And I talked to him briefly. We did a quick 5-minute interview during Mania weekend, and we got a lot to talk about. So he's going to be my guest next Thursday here on Toned In Entertainment. So
he's got a lot of championships to talk about.
He's got a lot of belts, and he just had he was actually part of Chris Van Vliet's first ever live podcast that Chris has ever done in the wrestling ring, and some crazy stuff went down during the podcast. We got a lot to talk about next Thursday, so he will be my guest here on the channel. Well, Julie, again, thank you so much for co-hosting with me again here tonight.
Thank you so much for having me, as always. And I know you and I, we always have ideas that we're bouncing back and forth at, towards each other. So I'm sure that you will see us popping up again with something else here in the very near future. Absolutely.
We already threw out a couple names already. Now it's just about putting it into action. So there'll definitely be more podcasts with Julie and Jack. Again, I'm hoping that this podcast was different, and the fact that we talked about the Wizard for about 7 minutes, I feel like it has to be different than any podcast you've ever done before.
It's definitely the first time I've been able to talk about the Wizard on a podcast, and be sure to let me know whenever we're going to have this watch party, because we can podcast during it.
Yes.
Live stream. I love it. Yeah. And then I can finally watch it for the first time too, and we can get live reactions from all.
It'll be like the Rocky Horror Picture Show, and me and Tony just reciting all the lines as they're happening.
The movie's 80 minutes long. The podcast will be 4 hours because of us talking about it. So prepare yourself, Julie, for a very long podcast. But I would be super down for that. Again, we both said it's our guilty pleasure movie, and it really is. So I think that'd be a lot of fun. So again, Julie and Jack, thank you guys for your time. I know everybody's super busy, and glad that we got 90 minutes pretty much out of you guys tonight. So thank you both for your time.
Thank you.
All right, guys. If you like interviews like this, guys, make sure you hit that red subscribe button so you can stay tuned in here to Toned In Entertainment for future videos.
Subscribe to the channel. Do it. Go now. Do it now.